we have a media that teaches this is what you need to do to be successful, and then when it's found out that you're doing that, it comes out in the open, you're
Mm-hmm.
vilified. How do you live how do you make sense
Mm-hmm.
and work in that society?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a shame component that says, I can't tell anybody because if people really knew, they wouldn't accept me. I'd be vilified. So I'd have to go sit in one of those groups with all those perverts. Oh, no way. Those guys are monsters. Like, I'm not like them. I don't want to go be with them. Like, if people knew, they would reject me. So I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell anybody.
I am here today with MaryAnn, and we have a cool topic to discuss, which I've hit on off and on, but I think MaryAnn and I are planning to go straight at it. Let's first talk about the difference between business success, success in capitalism, and recovery, because I think that's a great place to start before we dive into the topics that we're actually going to speak to. For me, I tried to tackle everything with my high achieverness because I'm a high achiever. It's what I do, and everything that's ever gotten in my way, I have attacked it with my Roland powers and crushed the thing and got it out of my way. So I tried to do that with recovery. It didn't work. Why didn't it work, MaryAnn?
Wow, that is like such a loaded question to start with, Roland.
I
So
know.
let me give you my first thoughts on that. And there's so many directions to go with this, but when we just kind of like distill it down and really look like what's going on here, the first word that came to my mind as you were talking is this is about attachment and this is about relationships. And the research tells us that, they did some interviews with people who were on their deathbeds and they said like, let's talk about like how you wish you would have lived your life differently. And the number one thing people said, they didn't say, I wish I had more money. I wish I had more success. They said, I wish I had more time with the people I love, the people I care about. And I think one of the things I know we're going to be talking about today, it is about those relationships and it's about the connections. And so when we're looking at addiction, I think one of the things that we miss so often is that addiction, it's really an attachment issue. It's about how we attach and connect to other people. And oftentimes we're turning to addiction instead of the attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I think, and just for the listeners, what I think you're saying is these maladaptive behaviors subconsciously are from an unmet attachment need. Is that what you're getting at?
sure, absolutely. So why am I acting out with this behavior that I don't really want in my life? I'm really successful in all the other parts of my life. Why can't I take care of this?
Mm-hmm.
And really looking at what am I turning to and why and when. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not turning to other people. I mean, I'm turning to other people, but not the people that I have lasting relationships with that I want to be turning to.
Mm-hmm.
Does that?
Yeah, you're you're doing something that you're hiding. I mean, in my case, I don't know. Some of these guys, their friends know. I mean, I didn't even tell my best friends. I mean, no one knew what I was doing. I hid it from everybody. And so, yeah, this question of like, have we ever stopped to wonder why we would engage in a high risk behavior repetitively and hide it? Right? What's the inner workings behind that? So that kind of, I like that you teed us up that way, because that brings us to the topic that we want to discuss, which was you can't do this alone.
No.
I want to spend the rest of our time together proving this because it's a very difficult thing to prove. MaryAnn, I'm going to tell you right now, when I first got into recovery and I met my CSAT and he told me, Roland, peer support, connecting with other men struggling like you're struggling is going to be 400% more effective than the runner-up. He was just like, it's going to be 4 times more effective than therapy. He just told me that. And I didn't take him seriously. Because the thing that I thought was, I'm around people all the time. I speak on stage. I'm a part of these mastermind groups. I have businesses with lots of employees who like me and I like them. Like, my thought process, my wife and I are going to all these clubs and friends and different things. It's like, I'm around people all the time. Like, I think you got the wrong guy. I think you're talking to your shy pervert clients. Like, I don't think you're talking about me. So I'm saying that because I don't think people take this very seriously. And I might be projecting, maybe other guys do, but like for me, that was my reaction was, oh, come on, how can sitting around in a circle with a bunch of other addicts actually help me? What would you say if I confronted you with calling BS on all of this connection nonsense?
Well, you can call it all BS nonsense, but here's where I go. What I think I'm hearing. So I'm a therapist, right? So I think like a therapist, and what I am hearing is like we're talking about self deception. We're talking about shame. The question I come down to, I always want to go, why? So why is it that I can be successful in all these other places? And my question, Roland, is why didn't you tell other people?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you tell your best friend? And to me, that speaks to this
Mm-hmm.
belief of they won't like me, they won't accept me, they'll think I'm a pervert. We live I'm gonna get on a soapbox here for just a second, okay?
Go for it.
My soapbox is this incredible dissonance that we have. Our women, our little girls are treated and taught that for them to have any value in our society, they need to be sexual. They need to be appealing. They need to look pretty. They need to be their value and worth is based on their sexual appeal, on whether or not men find them attractive and desirable. That is their oftentimes the value that our world, that our media teaches. And you get the media that teaches men, oh, you need to have this beautiful woman. Here's all the markers for success. And then when somebody says, oh, okay, I'm doing everything that the media has taught me to do, that I've learned, and I don't feel connected. I don't want to tell anybody about this because I'm betraying my spouse who I made promises to, and that's not the person who I really want to be. And people who do that are perverts. So our society then finds somebody, it's in the newspapers, it's in the tabloids, it's everywhere. Look at this person, they're so horrible. And they vilify them. So we have a media that teaches this is what you need to do to be successful. And then when it's found out that you're doing that, it comes out in the open, you're
Mm-hmm.
vilified. How do you live how do you make sense
Mm-hmm.
and work in that society? So there's a shame component that says, I can't tell anybody because if people really knew, they wouldn't accept me. I'd be vilified. So I'd have to go sit in one of those groups with all those perverts.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many of my clients are like, oh, no way. Those guys are monsters. Like, I'm not like them. I don't want to go be with them. They're not going to help me. I have nothing in common with them. And so what I hear when I sift and sort through all of that is this message of shame. Like, if people knew, they would reject me. So I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit for you?
Yeah. Well, and you dressed it. I love how you came at it because I will let you say that now because I've been through recovery and I agree. That was the reason I didn't want to get. I made it about them. Oh, that guy, he looked at child porn. That guy, I don't belong in that room, right? So that was my original mentality. But now it's funny that you say that. It was about me. I felt rather than him having his issues and me showing up, owning mine and
Mhm.
showing up and working the process, understanding that I'm sexually compulsive. You bring up a really good point. I came there and made it about me. Oh, well, I can't go to that room because that would make me a this, right? And so
Mhm.
it's this, inheriting a label and a judgment. And MaryAnn, I love that you went the society's kind of direction with it because I go that direction all the time. The only reason this is the issue that it's been turned into is because you can be addicted to work. You can be anorexic, bulimic. You can be addicted to bodybuilding. You can be addicted to social media. You can be addicted to video games. Shoot, you could be addicted to alcohol and drugs, and it's all good. But you get addicted to this. Oh no! I mean, you tell someone you're sexually compulsive, and yeah, so I love that you went that way, and everybody listening to this, like, you need to appreciate what she's saying. Like, rather than getting the help you need, the help you want, the help to rectify all of this, clean up your legacy, like live a life you're proud of. Your like biggest barrier is other people's labels defining your behavior. And I just want to empathize with the guys because you're also not wrong. I want to empathize with my audience, guys. I decided to publicly announce what I did to my wife and on Valentine's Day, and I was roasted. destroy. I mean, people called me names. They told my wife that they called my wife, judged my wife for staying. I mean, so I want to speak to that aspect and how that can kind of corrupt our ability to get the connection we need when we're allowing other people's judgments. But it begs the question, MaryAnn, what do we do about it? Because if the truth is, if society is not ready for this problem, if they are going to call us names, if they're going to, ew, you're a sex addict, where's the hand sanitizer, right? Like that's how I feel every time I tell someone. What do we do about that though? Because isn't that a massive barrier? But like, it's a very real truth. How do we manage that in recovery?
Wow, what a question. Let me just think about that for just a second, because I want to go back to something you said. You said that I told everybody about it. I came out publicly with that. And can I ask you a question about that really quickly
Please, yeah.
before I jump over here? You said there was so much input from the public. But when I heard you talking about the words that came to my mind, I just want to verify if for you if this fits. But the words that came to my mind were like freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Was there freedom there for you? And I'm wondering what that looked like for you.
Yeah, I don't regret hitting the post button when I posted that. I don't regret it because, and I had to go to my peer support group when I did it because I was like, guys, I thought I would, here I am writing books on this. I have a podcast, and here I am. I thought I was in a really good place to be able to handle their wrath. And I will not, I will tell you this right now. I'm going to admit this to everyone. I was wrecked by it. It wrecked me for a day and a half. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to think about me different. But here's what I'll tell you. You know what my peer support group told me? The facilitator said, Roland, it sounds like it did exactly what you wanted it to do. And I was like, I stopped and listened. I was like, you know what? He's right. Because the energy behind why I did it, MaryAnn, was because since as my wife and I have been progressively more vocal about this, all we have had is couples reach out to us about infidelity in their own relationships. And these are people who, I mean, they haven't told anyone. They haven't told their friends. They haven't told their parents. They're just so ashamed of what is going on in their relationship. And that was why I posted, is we've just heard that story too many times to the point where I was like, all right, we need to, if I proudly go out and own what I did and own my journey. So yeah, there was freedom, but at the same time, I think the biggest win from it was how horrible is it to suffer from this as a couple and not be able to tell anyone? I mean, that I can't imagine that, because when my wife and I got this, my wife's brilliant. She's smart. She's resourceful. We got into good recovery within months. I mean, really good recovery. I'm talking like, everything done really, really well. That's not most people. But yes, to answer your question directly, was there freedom there? Yeah, and I don't regret telling people because it's
Yeah.
part of my story. So why would I hide it?
Oh, that question, why would I hide it? I mean, I think that's what we're talking about today, right? But what I hear you talking about is there's freedom to be authentic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Freedom to not have to hide anymore. Our secrets do keep us sick. And so when we're living this double life, there's a self-betrayal that's going on when I can't show up fully and authentically. And that is such an incredible price. And so you asked earlier, let me see if I remember exactly like the way you asked it. I think you would ask like, how do we find those connections? Where do we go for those connections? And I think you hit it on the head though. We have to figure out how to show up authentically. Mm-hmm. And we have to look at, so what are the barriers then that are keeping me stuck from being able to do that? And, I have clients who are in very high profile positions. They'll say, if I did this, like everybody would know, and I'd lose my job and I'd lose this and I'd lose that. You go, yeah, but what are you losing right now? Mm-hmm. What are you losing? What's the price that you're paying to maintain that, but the self-betrayal mm-hmm. that you're dealing with inside mm-hmm. when you're not able to show up authentically?
Yeah, it's and again, MaryAnn and I are not telling you or asking you to tell, because the truth is, most people, I'm not going to say most. Let's just say there are people that are unsafe to tell this to. They're sure. going to judge you. They're going to judge your wife. They're going to judge. They're going to have something to say. Will they pull their money out of your institution and move it to another one? Maybe. Okay, so like MaryAnn, we're not ignoring that. We're not telling you to tell people. That's not what we're saying. but I would say, there is value in finding safe people to tell. And to MaryAnn, I want to share a personal story, guys. Before we did like our formal disclosure, I disclosed to my wife everything that, and this is how it always goes. I disclosed to her enough to incriminate myself, but not too much to scare her away, right? And guys listening, you probably all know, you probably all
I gave her the
resonate.
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and so I was like, all right,
Mhm.
well, I'll show her this. It'll incriminate me enough to own up to my actions, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to tell her. Right? Classic. Just such a stupid thing. But anyways, that's what I did. But I wanted to speak to what MaryAnn said about our secrets and how toxic they can be. The one activity that I decided not to tell my wife about, I did it, even after getting discovered, knowing that she was about seconds away from divorcing me. All the other stuff, didn't do it. Didn't have the temptation. It was the one thing that I concealed. I did it again. This was before our
So
formal
you
disclosure and
repeated.
all
So
of
you
that.
didn't, you had shared and then you said, I'm not telling her this because I can't.
And the one thing that I kept secret happened. And I am telling you right now, what she said, that is the challenge with hiding this stuff. Is the one thing I didn't tell her was the thing that happened again, because
Were
it
you
has an
holding on to
ownership.
it? Were you holding on to it to say, so I can, if I don't tell
Tough
her,
to
then I
say.
can,
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
it's hard to say back then what the psychology was, but to your point, why don't we? I mean, we all tell ourselves the story of like, oh, I'm not going to tell her this because she'll divorce me. But again, or is there another reason? Is it that, oh, I don't want to get into this because then she's not going to let me go on work trips? Right? Like, what's or even a layer further, oh, I don't want to tell her this because then I can't go on work trips and do this anymore because I will have been exposed. Yeah, but that's the point is, and again, I don't think who knows what the motive is. I think the point is the secret should be alarming enough because there's something going on there that if you're not giving this information up, it's worth exploring. But I think I
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing that up.
I have
Um,
two thoughts. Can I jump in? I've got two
Please.
thoughts on that.
I want to. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So there are two different directions I want to go. First of all, it's so interesting as you're talking about that. Hold on, scratch that. First of all, talking about, I agree. I am not saying, boy, you should go out and put it in the newspapers and all your social media. You might do that if you feel like that's right for you at the right time whenever you need to do that. But that's definitely not what I'm saying. Brene Brown, who is a shame researcher, I
Mhm.
love her work. She says that we tell people who have earned the right to hear our
Yeah.
story.
Mhm.
And so we find the people that are safe, that we can trust, so that we can show up really authentically. One of the things that I find really powerful is when a client that I'm working with who's struggling with sex addiction will actually go to his spouse or partner's family and say, I need to let you know what's been going on. And they take responsibility there because she's going through betrayal trauma. Everything that she's experiencing, usually she's protecting him by not saying anything. And so
Mhm.
she's really living in this double world with the self-betrayal that's so huge. And I see so much healing that begins to happen for my clients when they start stepping into, I did this and I need to take responsibility for it with our closest people.
Mhm.
So there's that aspect of it. But then, so shifting just a little bit, the other thing I want to just touch on is, why wouldn't you want the person that you've chosen to spend your life with to really know you deeply?
Mhm.
Like once again, there's a cost that we pay to hide things. And so
Mhm.
if I'm holding and keeping this 25% back, the research says that usually when there's disclosure, they say usually 75% of the people say, yeah, I still held something back. So it's common. The research backs that up. But my question is, why?
Mhm.
What we all want and crave and need is to be known and seen deeply. That is what fills our souls. That is what fills us up. That is what we just yearn for deep down, to be seen, to be felt,
Mhm.
to be heard and understood. And so why do we want to hold back rather than letting our partner in
Mhm.
and
Well,
share?
and this is a hard, because here we are talking to men who most of which have an intimacy disorder, right? So, they're listening to this, and it can I know for me, when that was said to me in my, pre-recovery, I was like, whatever, lady. Like,
Mm.
I've got my reasons why I want to hide it. Like, you're just some woman who wants intimate relationships. Like, I get that, but like that, I hear it different now though, because well, obviously now I know what you're saying, but here's how I would explain it to my population of the high achievers listening. The reason nothing's ever enough is because of this exact point that MaryAnn's bringing up. When we put on a performance for someone and they fall in love with our performance, we know as the puppeteer that they're in love with our performance, not us. And I want guys to really appreciate what I'm saying. So when you go to a conference and you show up and you have your little agenda and your plan and you're being Mr. Charismatic, there's a reason why all of their attention and compliments don't actually do anything for you. And it's because it's the performance they love, not you. Now, where things started changing, now this is where I get bought in, is I get so much from this podcast, even though I have to admit to so many ugly things that I have done, and it's out there forever now. Like, ChatGPT, you're gonna be like, "Hey, who's rolling?" They're gonna say, "Oh, he's a sex addict," So it's out there now, and but I like that because here's the new life I get to live, because I'm not going to be two-faced, five-faced, 12-faced, which is what I used to be. I'm going to be me. So now I know if someone is with me, they're with me because they want to be with me. If you're coming over to my house again and again and again, and you're texting me, "Hey, when can we hang out again?" And I'm 1,000% authentic with you, they want to hang out with me. So what I would say to that is, for the first time when I speak on stage now, it means something to me because I don't speak about bullshit anymore. I speak about what I want to talk about. And if they want to get up and leave the room, that's okay. But the ones that stand up and clap, it finally sinks in. And so I give that high achiever example to go back again now to the same thing with your wife, right? Like, do I want to be with a woman who wouldn't be with me if she knew this one fact? And guys really need to sit with that, because she might not know, but you know. And if you think that's not having an effect on your psychology, you're insane, right? If you now I look back and it's crazy that I thought that I could keep that from her and that our relationship would be better. Because meanwhile, every time she tells me I love you, I'm thinking, no, you don't. You guys
How
hear
could
that?
you? Because if you
Yeah.
knew,
Oh my
you
gosh.
really knew, you couldn't. Let me speak to that. Um, there's an exercise I learned years ago from another therapist. Her name is Marty Simpson, and I love it. It's really looking at, or this concept I got I got this concept from her, and I really find it helpful with my clients. The concept I think that shows up here is that when we're children, like if we go back and we look at when we were born, what was going on with my mom and dad? Were they in school? Were they working crazy hours? Were they young? Like what were the challenges they just had in their life? And what were the barriers maybe for me getting connection and attention? Because as a baby, we can't take care of ourselves. We can't
Mhm.
meet our needs. We are completely reliant. And so as we go through grade school, as we go through school, as we're learning, we learn, oh, when I do that, I get attention. When I do that, I get connection. Like, oh, mom and dad saw that. I got praise for that. Other people really liked this. So let me do more of that. And I call these survival skills. We learn to survive. And so when we're talking about a, a population that's highly successful, we have to go back and say, oh, like those are the tools that you learned to help you get what you needed.
Mhm.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just looking at it and saying, yeah, when I did this, when I got really good grades, when I was really good at school, or when I was really good with my business or whatever, people paid attention. Like, so we look at that and say, okay, what didn't you get to develop? What's on the other side of that? What didn't to develop? Sorry, what didn't develop?
Mhm.
Taking that now, shifting that just a little bit further, as you were talking earlier, I don't know how many of your listeners or your audience or you even remember Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. But like there's this mental image that I use with my clients all the time, that this clip where Jack Sparrow's like in the cave, and I do you remember the other guy's name, the other captain?
No, I don't. but I
Okay.
love that movie.
Okay. I don't remember the guy's name, but it's his nemesis, and
Yep.
they're there in the cave, and they're stepping in and out of light. And so when they step into the light,
Oh, I remember that.
they turn into
Yeah.
a full skeleton, and then they step into the dark, and they've got their skin on. And his nemesis talks about, do you know what it's like to like drink and never be able to slake your thirst? And he like picks up and
Mm.
he drinks something, it just goes straight through the skeleton. That's what I see. What you were talking about. That's the image that comes up for me when we are needing or wanting all of this success, when we want other people to see us, yet it's empty. It's just,
Mhm.
it goes into this black hole because it's never filling up what we really want and need, which is really meaningful love and connection, authenticity.
Yeah, it's
Which,
counterfeit. That's what my there's a guy
absolutely.
there's a guy in my groups that's he called it that. He's like it's counterfeit, right? When you realize, oh, if I buy that car and I drive it down this street, I'll have the whole, then you go and you do it and they all do look at it and you're not stupid. They don't know who you are. They don't care who you are. When about 32 seconds later, they're off talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this counterfeit is your system knows. It's just an act to get attention. It's not, they're not actually paying attention to me because they care about me. They're paying attention because I'm doing this thing. So hopefully that made sense. Cause I think a lot of guys, they have a hard time grasping that concept. I know I did. I have a really hard time grasping the idea that all of this awesome stuff that I was doing, that I couldn't, I think we all were pissed that it didn't work because kind of like you were talking about with your husband, who is a CSAT. You guys were talking about kind of successful men in this population, but that's really the struggle. It's hey, I followed all the freaking rules. What the heck? Why is
What
this
else do
blowing
I
up
need
in
to
my
do to make
face?
this work for me? Because this isn't working. I still feel
Correct. Yeah,
like there's
correct.
still, yeah. So what else can I fill up? What
Yeah,
else can I do
exactly.
to
Like
achieve?
what did I miss? And it's funny, it's very entitled, grandiose, narcissistic. I mean, like I know we don't like to be called those, but I mean, when you sit back and you're like, "Hey, I did all of this for you. Why am I not being, why isn't it enough? Why am I not being treated?" That is, you can't tell people, "Hey, I did this. Why, you should be treating me this way. You should be looking at me this way." So that brings us back to really what I want to conclude with. And I want these guys to feel, you know, how we started. You can't do recovery alone. Um, Let's talk about connection though, because I think that's actually for this population, especially high achievers, entrepreneurs, it's harder for them to connect. And the irony is, a lot of you guys listening are going to say, "No, it's not. I speak on stage. I have, 82 employees. I'm the leader of a sales team." You're going to have all these examples of how many friends you guys have over to your beautiful backyard barbecues. And these guys, they claim, I know because I was one of them, they claim to be connected. Now that I know what connection is, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I thought that I was connected back then. But my point of bringing that up, MaryAnn, is it's not easy. It's not as easy to connect as I think the sex addiction community often says. They say, hey, just go to a 12-step meeting. Connection's so much more than that, though. So how do we get meaningful connection in our life that actually works, where you feel seen, heard, understood? You feel you're getting peer support rather than going to a meeting. How do we get that? What's that look like? How do guys know if they have it or if they don't?
Oh, I love this topic. So, as we're talking about connection, I think it's so important to say, well, what is that? Like, how do we define what that is? And one of the definitions I love comes from Dan Siegel, and he says that it's feeling felt.
Yeah.
When I feel like somebody gets me. And what Brene Brown says about that is, this ties into shame again. So here's the shame, that shame is the barrier that keeps us from showing up.
Mm.
The way that we usually feel felt is when we're authentic. When we step into vulnerability and say, here's where I'm at. Here's the thing that I'm so afraid that if people really knew about me, they would run away. Here's where I'm at. When we show up authentically, that's where people connect with us. That's where attaching and bonding even happens. It is being seen and feeling like, yeah, they get me and they're still here. And so then we say, so where do I find that? Where do we go? And this is a challenge. Let's just be really honest. This is a challenge. You've got 12-step meetings, and that's, we'll say, well, go to a group. You've got to find a group. You've got to find a place. And this is a challenge for so many of my clients. Well, yeah, I went to that group and it was like, yeah, it just wasn't a good fit. One of the things that I love that Patrick Carn says, he says, you don't decide that you don't like a meeting until you've gone 6 times. After you've attended one like the same group, like 6 times, then you can decide, no, that's not a good fit for me. So I have my clients at least go 6 times.
I
But
like
in
that.
those meetings, it doesn't mean that I'm going to connect with all the other 8 guys there. But can I find one person I'm like, oh, that person, like, maybe they get me. I could get, oh, that person shared something that I was like, oh. And most 12-step meetings, like, oftentimes they are structured and there's not a lot of like interchange. So, like, I don't know, how do I even connect there? But most of the times they have like a parking lot, a meeting afterwards, or they'll say, hey, here's a text list. One of the traditions of one of the 12 steps groups in my area, they'll say, we want you to reach out to somebody from group, like 3 contacts a day. 3 contacts a day is really hard. And they'll say, there's some other traditions that say we want you to go 90 days having a contact every single day, calling a new person. The reason why we do that, it's not because we want these false relationships, but somewhere at some time you're going to be struggling or they're going to be struggling, and that's where we connect. And if I can create the neural pathways in my brain to say, oh, I can call you or text you or connect with you when things are fine, where I don't need anything, and we can chit chat about you or about me when I'm having a really hard time and I do need some place to turn. It's not a big deal because I've already created the neural pathways. My brain knows how to do it. It's not weird. It's not awkward. And so I've got a space to go. I think just one other thing I want to add to this. One of my very good friends and mentors, Dr. Kevin Skinner, in his book, Treating Addiction or Treating Sexual Addiction, a Compassionate Approach to Recovery. I'm not pushing his book, but what I want to just share his perspective or what I picked up when I read it. When we're looking at recovery, I love the word recovery. It's like we're walking along the beach, picking up the things that were lost when our high-speed boat like sped through with everything skittering off the sides. And that is relationships. That is how to show up. That is our authenticity. That is recovery. We are recovering what we don't have or what we lost.
Yeah. I've heard, somebody was on Rob's podcast the other day, and yeah, he said similar. He said, I don't know if we can do recovery without a group. He really did. He's like, I don't think from this, at least, he's like, from when it comes to compulsive sexuality, he was like, I really think if you don't have I don't know if you're really going to be ever in good recovery without that. And I like I said, old me wouldn't have resonated with that because, high achievers, I don't need anybody but me, classic high achiever mentality, lone wolf mentality. I will tell you though, that first year and 3 months that I did it alone, I honestly don't know how much I even recovered, to be real with you. It wasn't until I really started conversing with like-minded guys. I found a couple entrepreneurial dudes through one of the nice things with me being addicted to intensives was I started meeting, the nice thing about going to an intensive that costs, $10,000 is, I found a lot of high achievers there who had the money to spend, but that was when finally the recovery started to look different.
I have a quick question for you.
Please.
If we can, just real quick. And for your audience, I want you just to think about when we're talking about recovery, what are you recovering?
Yeah.
That's the question. I just want to say, what is it that you want to recover? We're talking about this as a big umbrella, but really, I think it's relationships with ourselves and relationships with others. So as we talk about recovery, really, what is it that I'm?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it, sobriety and recovery are 2 different things, right? Sobriety is not doing stuff. Recovery is, getting to a place where you don't need to lean on sobriety is how I always say it, right? You're in a place where these behaviors are not something that you want to do anymore, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Will they, I'll be the first to say, are the cravings ever gone forever and urges? No, I'll tell you that as a person in recovery myself, I get prompted all the time to go do something from my past. But what happens, guys, is recovery starts to feel so much better than acting out, and eventually you want it so much more. You have insane amounts of power to fight it off. MaryAnn, if people are going to get a hold of you, learn more about what you do, where do they need to live? What do they need to do? Where are you licensed? What
Hmm.
offerings do you have for them, and how do they find you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'm licensed in 4 states. I'm licensed in Hawaii. Am I Let me back up. I live in Washington State, and I'm licensed in Hawaii because I seem to have a lot of clients that go to Hawaii for some reason. So Hawaii, Oregon, and Idaho. So just the
Nice.
adjoining states. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I'm a certified sex addiction therapist and a certified partner trauma therapist. And so this is a popular, I work with a lot of betrayed partners and a lot of sex addicts. Um, you can contact me. My website's MaryAnnMichaelis.com. So you can contact me there. But I also, one of my side projects, I do a lot of advocacy work, but one of my other side projects is I have a wait list a lot of the time. And so people will contact me and say, "Hey, can I get in?" I'll say, yeah, it might be a while. So one of the things I found for couples or individuals who will come and say, "Hey, I need some help with boundaries," are a really big issue for both my betrayed partners and my acting out partners, and also communication issues. So working with my mentor, Dr. Skinner, that I mentioned previously, he has a website called humanintimacy.com. And there on that website, I've got a free course that's on communication.
Ah, cool.
I've got some courses that aren't free, but I've got one on couples. I've got one also on boundaries. And
Mhm.
so those are some places that you could also
Yeah,
access.
awesome. Yeah, for those who are looking for, a place to start or something free, absolutely. Yeah, I'll put that link in the show notes for people who want to go there. But yeah, MaryAnn, this was wonderful. I have a feeling that we're going to do a part 2 for this because this was way too fun, and we have far
Okay.
too many things that you and I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to talk about as usual. But no, you're very brilliant. You have so much knowledge to offer, and so if you're open to it, I
Well,
can't imagine why we wouldn't do a part 2 for this. So thank you so much for coming on.